This is the Franchise QB Podcast, where we empower entrepreneurs to win big in franchising. We huddle up weekly to educate our audience about the most successful small business model ever created, franchising.
Welcome to the Franchise QB Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Halpern, a 20-year industry veteran and entrepreneur. My mission is for listeners to achieve their American dreams of creating wealth and independence through franchise ownership. Every week, we speak with franchisees, franchisors, or vendors that support the industry. Thank you for joining us, and let's get started. Joining us in the huddle today is David Smith, Vice President of Digital Marketing at Go Minis. Welcome to the show, David.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate having me on Franchise QB.
Yeah. And before we get into Go Minis and your background, I want to first congratulate you on becoming a new father. You mentioned your baby boy Thomas was just born, so congratulations to you and your whole family.
Thank you for.
Absolutely. Exciting. Awesome. Exciting times. So, David, you were a marketing manager for Scorpion, which is a well-known marketing company, especially in the franchise space, and responsible for building long-term relationships with over 180 clients over your tenure with them, while helping them achieve their goals through strategic and effective online marketing campaigns. Then you joined the brand that we're going to discuss today, Go Minis, back in 2023. Tell us a little bit about your marketing background and how you entered the franchising space.
Yeah. So I was actually just on my boss about this the other day because I didn't know if he knew this, but my entree into franchising actually began with my mom. Mom is still today a franchise with American Express Travel. She used to be Princess Cruises, then decided to go on her own, become a franchise. And I didn't really understand it at the time when I was 19, 20, what it really actually meant to be a franchise.
So it's in the family.
Yeah, it's in the family a little bit. Yeah, exactly. And
very cool.
Went to University of San Diego, studied marketing. Was probably one of the few friends that of our group that actually went into the field that they actually got their degree in. Seems like people kind of go all over the place.
Yep.
Originally, I was in accounting. I'm really into the numbers. I still really love numbers. We're very data driven on what we do at Go Minis from a marketing perspective. But I was in the accounting field, and I actually, interestingly enough, switched my major because I watched a lot of Mad Men. And that is not a joke.
That's a good true story.
Yeah, it's 100% true story. And, there were aspects of Don Draper I want to emulate, maybe not some others. Show and thought, hey, this is what marketing and advertising was going to be. So yeah, I made the switch, graduated, and all of a sudden found that I couldn't get a job in marketing right away. So I did some wine sales, have a passion for food and wine beverage. That was my previous past in the fine dining world. I'm working for Michelin star restaurants and chefs, and then wine sales. And then I got my gig at Scorpion. I live in Valencia where Scorpion was first founded.
Okay.
And through connections here and there, and got my job. I interviewed originally for their home services division, and then eventually for franchise, and got the gig with franchise. And here we are. The rest is history.
That's awesome, man. Well, thanks for sharing with that. I didn't realize that Scorpion was headquartered in your backyard. That's neat. And I'm like you. I graduated a long time ago in the 90s. You're a lot younger than me. But when I got my degree in online marketing, I got right into that field. So like you, a lot of my friends had gone and done different things. And it's funny you mentioned about switching majors. My younger son, who's going to be a freshman at the University of Tennessee in the fall, he applied as a marketing major. And then when we went to the campus to check it out, they had all these Bloomberg terminals, and the finance department was really interesting. So he's already switched over to finance. So maybe like you, he'll graduate with a little bit of numbers and a little bit of marketing. So we'll see how that all plays
Great
out.
way. Yeah,
man. So before we jump into franchise marketing, and that's going to be the focus of our conversation today, tell the audience a little bit about the Go Minis brand if they're not familiar with it.
Yeah, Go Minis launched well over 20 years ago as a dealer model. So Bill and Sheila Norris came up with this idea of being able to have portable storage come to you. Obviously, the big elephant in the room is our biggest competitor, PUDS, who trademarked the name, portable on-demand storage, what it actually stands for. But they had this idea of being able to bring a smaller, more nimble company to those. And dealership model was launched, just going around trying to put pins and flags. And then in 2012, we actually launched as a franchise model.
Okay.
We no longer sell dealership models. We're converting all of our old dealers that were on those older legacy packages, if you will, up to here. And we are now in 43 states, 118 locations across the country, predominantly the Northeast, Southeast, and kind of as you move through the Midwest to the West Coast, it's a little bit more sparse, but we cover all the way from the West to East Coast. And exactly what we do. We bring a portable storage container instead of you going to an on-site storage facility like a U-Haul or a public storage or something like that. We're bringing the convenience to the customer by here's the container, dropped off in your driveway. If you have a bigger piece of land, it could be in the backside of your house, wherever, and you can load it up. Then we can move it wherever you need it to go.
Yeah,
So
no, it's a great concept, and I live in the Northeast. I'm in the Northern Virginia area, and I grew up in the Philadelphia area, and I'm really familiar with the brand. I've seen it all over the place, up and down 95 corridor. So I appreciate the context there. I mean, that's an amazing scale and 14 years of franchising plus the licensing conversions. So let's talk a little bit about the marketing, which is kind of your wheelhouse. David, what strategies and tools have you implemented that help franchise owners see real-time ROI to make better decisions?
yeah, so we actually just launched with Scorpion. I guess before we get to the Scorpion part, a couple of years ago, our CEO, we had a CRM kind of operating system that really didn't work well for us. It was kind of the only thing that was in the game at the time. He had the vision to create our own internal homespun system, and that allowed us to be able to create that with one of our largest owners in Ohio. Their CTO is with Hertz, and so he's like, I think we can build something for you guys that's more nimble for you. So we launched that in early 2022. And then last year, we were finally able to connect that system with Scorpion and bring the sales and marketing data together on the back end with Scorpion. So now with our franchisees, we can, instead of saying you got 18 leads this month, you got 60 leads, you spent $4,000, whatever the metrics might be, we can actually say, here's your lead volume, here's what you actually converted, and then here's the ROI. And, we're in a really interesting space too, because a lot of other franchise brands, maybe it's a QSR or maybe it's a restoration company, something like that. Since a lot of our customers can be semi long term or it could be a year plus,
Hmm.
that revenue keeps calculating every month as we rebuild them.
That's a good
Um,
point.
and so initially, when you look at like month to date where we are today, and then you zoom out and you look at where you were this time last year, you're like, I'm doing horribly. I'm like, no. The leads that came in this month that you closed, look at them in 6 more months, look at them in 12 more months, 18 months. It's an education game we have to play with them to show them
Right.
real. But we've never had this available. We used to ask our franchisees to categorize their leads. Is this a good lead, qualified, not qualified? Did you win it? Did you not? And another huge disconnect was leads would come in 6 months prior. Maybe the husband calls looking to get a container. The wife has been dogging him to get it booked or something. And she takes matters in her own hands. So she calls and books it, but they never made the connection. That was a paid lead that came in 6 months prior.
Gotcha.
And our franchisees weren't going to go back and make the connection, say, oh, wait, you're so-and-so. I remember that lead 6 months ago and mark that as one as well as this one. So now that the it's all tied together from address, email address, phone numbers, quote ID numbers, there's a lot of different safeguards we've put in place. We're able now very quickly be able to tell franchisees what's working and what's not. What
That's
zip
huge.
are providing the highest ROI.
Yep.
Yeah, that has been a game changer. And it's really changed the conversation because it's gotten us away from feelings-based marketing to more real-time data. It's still not a perfect science.
Sure.
But
Yeah, I get it. But also having that recurring revenue is a really attractive aspect of the model. And to be able to tie that back to the original lead, then you can say, okay, the efficacy is here and this is really working. And let's kind of double down and reinvest in this. So, and to that end, like how do you ensure that marketing efforts don't just push leads, but empower the franchise owners to apply those insights locally? Because, there's kind of, you want to make sure that they understand the dynamics of like the lead flow.
yeah, and we still talk about this, how a couple years ago at our annual conference, our CEO kind of threw up like the spaghetti model of like, you just never know sometimes where customers and leads will come from. I mean, we have to educate folks on that. We're having a really interesting use case right now with one of our larger owners that is really wanting to drill down on a keyword. And he's saying, this costs way too much. Why are we even advertising that? And he's like, we only got 3 leads for it this month. I'm like, well, why don't we zoom out? We take a step back. We look at a 24 or 36 month cycle. Like this has been your number one driving keyword over the last 36 months. Now, sure, it takes a lot of money, but if you start to look at the data behind it. So it's an education piece. We have to really educate them on, you can't just do paid advertising. You can't just do SEO. You need to do a little bit of everything, some video, a little social. It doesn't always have to be the most professional looking thing either. You can do a quick little selfie video that they're uploading to TikTok, to Instagram, point it back to your website, and it feels more authentic for people. So really,
Yeah.
it's an education piece and trying to get them the whole model because, we have franchisees sometimes look too much at, well, here's my paid ROI. Now that we have this amazing tool, connect the revenue back to sales data and customer lead flow. They want to look, my overall is 12x return, but my pay is only 4. What's that about? And we have to really educate them that, paid advertising leads don't always convert right away and they end up becoming organic later on. So it's one big holistic look.
Yep.
You were to shop,
Yeah, I mean, that data is so valuable, but it's like almost every franchise that I've interacted with over the years, you just gotta have a lot of irons in the fire, right? It's like you can't just have one thing because if you do and that thing dries up, then all of a sudden you're like, where are we gonna grow our business? Where are we gonna connect with customers? So having like a lot of different things to test, but having the data there to say, hey, this is working, let's reinvest in this, and this isn't, let's pull back and put it in this other bucket. I think that that's really helpful to have, those tools available to your owners. I want to talk a little bit about how owners help owners. Like you've pioneered regional franchise conferences to foster that peer learning and problem solving. In your opinion, why is hyper-local collaboration very effective in your role with franchise marketing?
Yeah. So when I first brought that idea up to my CEO, initially, I think I went too big, too hard. I wanted to do our normal annual conference as well as the
Okay.
regionals, got a road show, trade show, roam around the country. So we had to kind of change that up a little bit, and rightfully so, just the amount of money that would take. But I first experienced this regional roadshow with another brand when I was at Scorpion, and it didn't seem like it was that big of a deal. You only have a few guys showing up from that area, but the
Right.
impact and actual connection we made with them at a smaller scale, more one to one, was huge. So in 2024, we did a regional conference. Went to Dallas, Texas, Indianapolis, Jacksonville, Florida, and then Danbury, Connecticut, all within like a 5-week time frame. Instead of our annual conference being like 3 or 4 days, this was day and a half too. It was quick,
Right.
fast, in and out. Kind of took away from all the puffery, if you will, and just got down to brass tacks. It was really the most interesting aspect of it. When you request to do something like this, you advocate for it. You're not sure how it's going to go, but it went off amazing from the very first one in Dallas. This massive conference room. We had about 25 people there.
That's
Instead of it
great.
being 100 plus or so, usually in one big room. And before we knew it, halfway through the meeting, we kind of felt like we were talking at them a little bit. We got them engaged, and there were big discussions happening at the table about what worked for them, why doesn't this work for them in this marketplace. And typically, what we've also found from a regional focus is what is affecting maybe Texas, Arkansas, maybe Louisiana is so different from what you're going to experience in Virginia or New York,
Right.
Connecticut, and Massachusetts versus California and Oregon. And so they were able to talk about maybe the insurance ramifications that they're seeing in their area, the type of restoration disasters, because we really focus a lot from a B2B perspective outside of like moving and storage. Some of the biggest revenue drivers for us is going to be restoration. So if your home has been affected by a hurricane, freezing pipes, burst pipes, you have to move your stuff out of your house into a
Yep.
container while they build the house and get it back to where it needs to be and restore it. And so when you're talking to that guy in California who deals with wildfires versus in a big room with someone that's dealing with hurricanes year round, the need to be on constantly, they share that similarity, but the
Interesting.
response is so different.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just love the whole concept of franchise wars and like your marketing team promoting the collaboration between the owners, especially in the regional capacity where, you can really get to know the owners. And in my business, in the franchise consulting side, like I was an independent for many years and then I joined FranServe and I've kind of created groups within groups and like we get together and collaborate. I just got back from 2 days in Atlanta meeting with one of our franchisor partners and there was maybe 20 consultants. We have our big convention in July where, it's massive. There's like 200 of us and there's vendors and there's franchisors, but like this, the conversations we have in the Ubers and on the bus to and from the events, like that's where the gold is, right? Is we really learn things that are helping other people in our business get better. Just who they're aligning themselves with vendor wise and what they're spending on this and what's effective. So I just like that. And especially now in a day and age where, communicating and messaging is like omnipresent with all these apps and our cell phones. Like the idea that a franchisor wouldn't embrace that and allow the franchisees to connect. I mean, obviously, if something bad's going on, then it's going to be
Sure.
also going to spread. So I guess that's probably the fear. But when you let people collaborate, it's usually like rising tide floats the boats and it benefits the franchisor, benefits the owner. So it's really cool that you suggested that to leadership and they kind of embraced it. That's great. So you talked a little bit about like restoration and weather related, like in your, discipline and marketing and your business Go Minis, like how does geography and weather really affect the marketing campaigns and the engagement that the franchisees have?
Yeah, it's a great question. We often have found that obviously these natural disasters will affect a lot of people and we never want them to happen, right? But we're there to try and help turn a solution for folks that have been affected.
Right.
From some of the hurricanes that New Orleans has faced and in Florida. I actually remember at that regional conference I mentioned a couple of years ago, that exact same weekend, we had our franchisee there from Asheville, North Carolina. Now, obviously, he's nowhere near. He should have been at the Jacksonville one, but it worked out better for his schedule to be at the Dallas one. He had to leave. like day one and had to leave to get back home to make sure his
Yep.
kids were okay, make sure the business was okay, family, friends, etc., and what he can do to help. And he's been a huge solution for his area. Donated a lot of free containers too to folks in need, because what do you do for folks that don't have insurance because they're older, they paid their house off, they don't need insurance, and their whole home has just been ripped away by
Wow.
a hurricane that hit North Carolina in the middle of the state. I mean, that's so unheard of, right? So yeah, so it's being fast, it's being nimble, and it's being able to be empathetic with our customers because they're going through a tragic experience, whether it be a wildfire, earthquake, hurricane, tornadoes. We see a lot of tornadoes out of Kentucky, Tennessee, you name it. And yeah, we're there to help them. And a lot of what our vice president of operations, Ron Weish, has really advocated to our franchisees is to make the relationships at the local level with ServiceMaster, with ServPro, Voda, you name it, right? All these big brands, um, and being able to rely on them from a partnership perspective, because that is not cyclical. What happens when it comes to lead volume from B to C? It's relationship based, and that's so key for us.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you want your franchise owners' phones to ring when these things happen and the first guy in there, like even if it's not a disaster and a pipe breaks and it floods the basement, the plumber's going to be first on site, then they're going to call the restoration company. And then the restoration company's got to go Minis as the solution for storage. So like to be in that kind of supply chain is going to be really important for your owners to get that like predictable business because, a pipe breaking isn't predictable, but it's going to happen often,
Sure.
especially with homes that are aging. So I want to talk a little bit about your tech stack. Like Go Minis has launched custom tech platforms that sync your marketing data and can be like affiliated with sales outcomes. Can you share how this smart marketing execution helps keep owners engaged and empowered?
Yeah. So going back to what we talked about earlier with the launch of GM1, that's our own homespun operating system compared to the previous tech solution we were using before that. That opened up a world for us between our marketing vendor with Scorpion. We work with Active Campaign on the email marketing piece. Those two pieces right there, from what we're able to deliver in real time from our email marketing. I mean, when we first launched our email marketing, it was very, very basic. We used to be like a 6% open rate. Once we integrated that properly and made the necessary changes with GM1 to link up that data and make it much faster response, we're over 40% now on our open rate.
Wow.
Click-through rates more than tripled. So it's great to see, because we were doing things at a very basic level. Once we were able to integrate that from a tech perspective, it's all automated now. It takes a lot of work to get it there and to think it through. So yeah, being able to deliver real solutions to franchisees, we found very quickly, I mean, again, I've been doing this for 6 years now, but I found very quickly that if you can do it for the franchisees and benefit them, it's a lot better than asking them, because we have to convince them to want to do it. Whereas if we kind of make it mandatory and you help them do it on their behalf, and they get a little bit of feedback from them, we can just launch it. It goes so much smoother, and it's a much better result for them. We will always have franchisees that want to pick things apart here and there, but we need those people, because if they weren't pushing us to be better about it, we would just rest on our laurels and call it a day. Sure, 6%. It's not though. And so, yeah, so really our tech stack, being able to integrate GM1 with Scorpion, with Active Campaign, all of our marketing efforts, making things a lot more automated. In the world we live in just today, where we're going is needed, but in our particular industry, right? Kind of like restoration. If something bad has happened and you need restoration, or I need a container because my husband or my wife or my partner has been asking me to get a quote and I haven't done this yet, we're moving in like weeks, they're going to call 6 different portable storage companies, moving companies. The first person to answer the phone, give them a good price and a good quality experience, they're probably going to book with that person. They might still get the other quotes from the other companies, but we have often found that not everyone's always, even in today's market, is not always going with the very cheapest option. Because if they feel they're getting a better value for what they're spending, they're willing to spend just a little bit more. They're not going to go insane and spend triple or double, but they're willing to spend an extra 20, 30, 40 bucks, because our franchisees are local. So when like those restoration situations are happening, they just themselves went through a hurricane or a tornado. They live 6 miles away from the homeowner. Like, I'm in the same boat you are. I still don't have power, but I can get this delivered to you so you can start working on moving forward with your life. Versus a lot of our competitors based on Florida, they're a big call center. So since we're local, that really drives a much better experience for our customers.
Yeah, interesting. So what advice would you give to other brands that are looking to integrate marketing and sales results more closely? Because clearly you've seen a lot of success when those marketing campaigns are implemented and you're seeing the ROI for your owners.
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say if you don't already have someone on staff that understands the data get a consultant, get someone, a third party vendor that you can act as a liaison between your CRM operating system and your marketing vendors, because then they need to really help you better understand the data. Because if you just silo everything out and, operations over here, marketing's over here, sales is over here, it's a disaster waiting to happen.
Right.
So yeah, I would advocate for them to really own one source truth, right? Of where the data lives, make sure it's all integrated nicely, and then push that out, because then you're all playing from the same playbook. And
Very
when you
cool.
can do that, I think things are off to the races for them.
That makes sense. So in your view, what is something that's misunderstood in franchise marketing that just drives you crazy?
I wonder if other marketing people would say this, but oftentimes we have franchisees that claim that where I live is very unique and it's very different from wherever else we're advertising across the
Market
country.
XYZ, right?
Absolutely. And you know what? And to be honest, there are instances of that. If the regional population is on the older end, maybe 75 plus, versus maybe a really young town like, let's say, Austin, sure. As a society, we know how to Google things, right? And I know AI is changing that quite a bit, but people know how to use websites and how to make phone calls, how to do basic searches, and we all respond to ads in different ways. But um, they often want to push back against a machine that works. We've been with Scorpion for almost 10 years now. We know what keywords works. We know
Yep.
what the user experience should feel like. It doesn't mean we can't get better about something, but they often think that, oh, well, this will never work in my marketplace. But reality, what we find is withholding either new franchises from really seeing when they first launch, or maybe it's a franchisee that's been around for 7, 8 years and they just can't get past a certain plateau. Oftentimes it's, do they have enough containers in their marketplace? Do they have enough people working for them to develop B2B relationships? Do they have enough folks answering the phones appropriately? I mean, that's still something we are dealing with today. They're like, go minis when they answer the phone. Instead of saying, hey, thanks for Greetings of Valencia. How can I help you today?
Right, right.
And be
Big difference,
like,
right? In terms of
yeah,
the
absolutely.
first
Or
impression they're making to the consumer.
yeah, and we have multi-line owners, which is totally fine. They work in the moving line side of things with United, Mayflower,
Yep.
and they might say, "Thanks for calling Smith Moving and Transportation." That wasn't the landing experience page they just got for Go Minis. So we have to educate them from that perspective. So, but yeah, to answer your
Yeah,
question, it's
very
that
cool.
their territory is so unique.
So you see a lot out there, David. What marketing trend do you think is overhyped?
I mean, I'm sure everyone gets the same idea of AI, but it's not that AI is overhyped. I think what's overhyped is content creation from AI. I mean, let's just spending an absorbent, like Coca-Cola kind of level of spend, where even then it's still kind of usable, like that those
And let's
commercials.
face it, like franchise owners aren't doing that, right? I mean,
They're
it's
not
not
doing that.
really
Yeah,
right.
absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, so I think the content creation for it, do I think that it'll eventually be there to where it's going to replace people? I do, unfortunately. But I think right now people are kind of freaking out about that. What I think is something they should be more focused on should be their organic search and their organic traffic that's dropping because of zero click searches through ChatGPT and others.
Mhm.
But that doesn't mean it's over. I think it's just that people are researching their information and they're going to go elsewhere, get their information, and then convert to become a customer. But yeah, I think content creation from AI is overhyped because it's everything I've ever seen. It's pretty bad, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I today was speaking with a candidate that was looking at opening a franchise in Illinois, and I really didn't know how they landed on my HubSpot to kind of book the meeting. So I asked him, and he said, "I found you in ChatGPT and Claude." And I was like, "Wow, that's just the first time I've heard that." And I hope it's the first of many times I hear that. But it was kind of
Yeah,
neat, and now I'm gonna have
you
to
can't
figure
control
out.
that, right?
Yeah.
You can't. It's reputation. It's what they know. It's when they scrape, and it's just a different world than what we're
Yeah,
used to.
absolutely.
Like 10 years ago.
So you've seen a lot of campaigns over the years, but can you give us an example of a favorite regional campaign or a favorite franchisee success story with Go Minis?
Yeah. For privacy reasons, I won't name who they were, but we had a franchisee in the South who really leaned hard into video in a very big way. They were willing to, they didn't want to spend the kind of dollars it needed for content creation. I
Mhm.
just said, here are some ideas. You have a phone in your hand, just kind of create something. You've got a person that answers your phone, you got a driver, you got you. Just create some funny kind of content, give them some basic ideas, and they ran with it. Their branded search was up by like 40%. Their actual lead volume increased by like 15.
Wow.
It was pretty cool to see. And because again, they were just getting out there in the community and willing to be not necessarily silly, but they were more willing to just put themselves out there as a real human case study. right?
Yeah.
We are a locally owned business.
And
So
maybe
yeah, that
like
was a
demystifies things because a lot of times I'm assuming that this may not be like your customers are doing this for the first time. You know, whatever the need is, whether it's a restoration need or a moving need or a construction need, you may not have hired Go Minis 5 times previously. It could be the first time. So that kind of visual content will help the consumer really understand like what it looks like and who are the people behind it. And I can see that being effective.
absolutely. And it allows them, like you said, to be human for it. But at the same time, too, it gives a sense of empowerment to the franchisee to try something different, work within these parameters, brand guidelines, et cetera, but to make it
Sure.
kind of go from, and you mentioned it, most of these customers are not using GoMinis many, many times in a single year, right? Most people usually move every 8 to 10 years. So being able to be in front of the right people at the right time, even if it's not that customer, they might say, hey, actually I saw a company the other day. You might want to, as my friend, might want to consider contacting them. People still don't understand sometimes what portable storage actually is. They don't realize that
Yeah.
it can still come. They know what the name Pods is. They know what portable storage actually is. So I think
Right.
it, like you said, provides it in a very nice way.
Well, so this is a little bit outside of your purview from a marketing standpoint, but if someone's listening and they're like really interested in becoming a Go Minis owner, do you have an idea what the startup cost range is in item 7 to kind of get going?
So I know a little bit of it because I am still pretty involved with Fran Dev. So we try and when we sell territories, we used to sell like states, like true on like massive states, how
Okay.
big they were. Because that was the old dealer model, where it was about getting pins and flags on a map and whatnot. But now today things have changed so much where we really want our franchisees to be set up for success. So we've shrunk down the territories we sell. The sweet spot we have found is anywhere from like 4 to 500,000 up to like 8, maybe 1 million. So it's just the range and kind of how competitive the marketplace is. We do a lot of analysis for that. But usually the initial franchise fee cost is about 85 grand for an 800,000 person territory. So think of it like 10 grand for every 100,000 in population that you are buying the
Okay.
territory for. But that sweet spot's around 800,000. Now there's other startup costs of the inventory you need to purchase for the containers, minimum orders you need to place, as well as, a truck, stuff like that. But the nice thing is you don't have to have like an office space, right? You can have a lot for the containers to be on. We're not limited anywhere, very rarely in the country where we need like it to be indoors. I think it's like a Chicago only sort of thing. But yeah, so it's one of those things where all you need is the money to be able to start it up. And then you need to have a vision of, okay, how big are we going to make this? Because once you really start to hit a certain number of containers, that's where the money just starts coming in hand over fist.
Yeah. And like in a typical startup package, and it might vary a little bit, but how many containers would a new owner get to deploy once they kind of join the system?
So if it's a brand new greenfield where no one's owned it before, they're not buying from someone else, is brand new. I believe the last time I checked, it was 78 containers they need to purchase from the
Okay.
get go. And if they do it right, they'll be 90% occupied within 12 months and under. It just depends on how they
Wow,
do it the
that's
right.
amazing. And you're saying that like a fenced in lot would be a suitable environment to kind of house them or a field or kind of wherever they have space?
Absolutely, yeah. And everyone has like different local jurisdictions, like from a state and county, what they would require. But yeah, as long as you have a lot, highly recommend paved if possible. I know it's more expensive,
Sure.
but if you have a truck and it's a flatbed with a cable pulley system, 70 containers is what all you need to get started. Yeah, and the world is your oyster. I think once you start to hit like 300 containers, because at that point you have all that recurring revenue, and when you've gotten to that point, you've done the right things. You've joined the Chamber of Commerce. You've got the great relationships with restoration companies, construction companies, retail. You're doing the right things marketing wise. You've hired a couple extra drivers, so and it's just a well-oiled machine from that perspective.
Very cool. And does Go Minis provide item 19 earnings guidance so a candidate can kind of size up what the potential looks like?
Yeah, we give them kind of some of the parameters that they're going to need to see that to make sure that they're getting the full skinny, if you will, of kind of what it looks like to actually get involved, the capital that's going to be needed for it. We can provide financing for them as well through third-party vendors. But yeah, we kind of try and step them through that information. We often also encourage our franchisees to go speak to other owners. Zoom is fine, Microsoft Teams is fine, et cetera. But we often recommend that they go speak to a couple different owners that we have in our network. They've been doing this the longest because they've been battle tested and they know what it takes, and to go visit them in person.
Yeah, that validation is so critical to really kind of looking under the hood and making sure it's the right match for the candidate. David, it's been great. Anything else you want to add to the mix before we wrap up today?
You know, our goal is really, since we're kind of talking about Frand Dev right now, our goal is to continue to find high quality candidates that are really willing to dive right in, and come with an open mind of what it's going to take to make that business successful in that marketplace. But I think there's some really exciting things coming for Go Manage on the pipeline. I'm excited to be at this company working with Chris Walls, our CEO, Ron Weiss, our VP of Ops, to elevate this brand to where we know it can be and will be over the next couple of years. Yeah, it's been an exciting journey. I really appreciate the time, Mike, that you had me today here on
Yeah,
Franchise QB. A great conversation. So thank you very
yeah,
much.
thanks so much, David. It was great to have you here. And once again, congrats on being a father, juggling this great company
Thank
that's
you.
growing with your growing family is exciting stuff. And if anyone listening would like to connect with David and his team to learn more about marketing or franchising with Go Minis, contact me at franchiseqb.com and I'll get you connected. Thank you so much, David, for taking the time to get in the huddle with us today.
Thanks very much, Mike. I appreciate all your time today. Thank you.
You got it.
Thank you for listening to the Franchise QB podcast, where you're at the helm of your future as a franchise owner. If you enjoyed the content, please rate the show and recommend it to anyone that might be interested in franchising. Make sure to visit franchiseqb.com to subscribe to my newsletter and for an actionable playbook to go from walk-on to legend in your new business. Follow us on Twitter at QB and join us every week for a new episode. See you next time.
Visit franchiseqb.com to take the next step of your journey towards wealth, independence, and franchise ownership. And remember, when working for the man gets old, you must do something bold. Thank you for listening.